So Casey, introduce yourself and tell them who you are with regards to how you got during the team.
I just said before, Casey Harry. I'm a senior psychology major. When I was freshman, I was actually in Dr. Smith's PY 101 class, and before I got here, my friend Camille, she's a classification above me. Yeah. She told me about Dream Team, so she told me to get involved and stuff like that. So I was just like, okay. So I talked to Dr. Cook about it. Then I went to the interest meetings, and it pretty much just blossomed from there. And
and what has it done for you to be a part of it? It's a peer mentoring as well as a professor mentoring, but what has happened as a product of that for you?
right. So when I was here, a lot of the juniors and seniors before me, they did like a whole bunch of different cool things like in research and all that stuff. So they pretty much just would tell us everything that they're doing to advance their career development and all that stuff. So I feel like they're more so like really helpful when it came to like my journey throughout this department. So like if I ever needed help like trying to pick out my classes or just like what I should do with my free time over the summer and all that stuff, I would go to them, and then obviously Dr. Cook. But they're a big help when it came to like my journey throughout this time in the department.
And so what have you done over the last three summers?
First summer I just was a camp counselor.
Camp counselor, but then after that?
Okay, it was my summer between my freshman and sophomore year. Yeah, I was a camp counselor in New York, but I'm from California, so I traveled. And then my sophomore year, I joined Imari, which is a research program in the biology department. So we do research here on campus, and then they also send us away for a summer to do research at like various research institutes across the country. So 2 summers ago, I got placed at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. So I was there 2 summers ago. Then I was also there this past summer doing research on sickle cell disease for adolescents and young adults. So throughout this time being in the department, it helped me like gain skills that I don't feel like I would have had if I just went straight into to the research program. I wouldn't know half the things they're doing over the summer if I didn't like pay attention and go through all these classes here. So it helped me in the long run.
Imari is a program that we had where we partnered between our department and biology. And so in doing that, you have to learn all the research techniques from the labs. And so our students would practice in their labs and learning the biological techniques, laboratory techniques. And as a product of being in Imari, then they were sent to a wide variety of research universities. And so sickle cell, what are you looking at in sickle cell?
The first summer, I was looking at pretty much like, okay, so there's 2 different types of research. There's qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative more like feedback-wise and just like trying to see the effectiveness of a program, and quantitative is like the numbers and all that. So last summer I did a qualitative research on adolescents and young adults, like seeing how feasible, acceptable, and beneficial the intervention was for them. So it was an intervention on like health management and like self-management with their sickle cell disease. So teaching them skills that they can take throughout life and bettering themselves with their sickle cell. So I looked at like I did a lot of transcribing data. Transcribing data is pretty much I listened to a whole bunch of interviews, and I had to write word for word what they're saying in the interviews. And then from that, I had to compare each interview to see if what they're saying is the same. And so then from there, you just like get themes across each interview, and then that's how you see like what's feasible, what's acceptable, what they found beneficial to them. And so I did that, and then this summer I looked at more of the measurements that were in the study. So I looked at their stress management, transitioning skills from adolescence to adult care, psychosocial factors that can get in the way of bettering their self-management and just taking care of themselves. And yeah, so we did that.
So now what's the next step? Did you get paid? Let me ask you
Oh
that question.
yeah, I got paid really well. really good.
Yeah, and then what's the next step that Cincinnati wants to do with you?
Next step is, since I'm graduating this year, they want to hire me back into the lab to work as, so I was a summer student, so I was pretty much working under like the rank order, like the PI, which is the doctor you're working for. So then she has clinical research coordinators, people right under her that are pretty much my bosses, mentors. So I was right under them, so the summer student. So they want me to come back next year, and I'll be the person that'll be right under the doctor. So I'll be where my mentors were this year. I'll be a mentor to somebody, another summer student next year. Yeah.
So that's going to be you're taking a gap year.
Yes.
And so, in other words, she's doing practical experience and getting paid for it in psychology, essentially, at Cincinnati through a gap year. Lots of students take gap years after their senior year where you really need to do something, not just sit back and watch television. So what does that mean in terms of maybe graduate school? What do you think, what impact do you think that will have in terms of graduate school?
It will have a lot of an impact because my first mentor, she graduated like a year before me when I went last summer, and she took a gap year because she felt like she didn't have enough experience, like clinical experience, so she took a gap year and worked in that lab. So mind you, she only has a PS, nothing else, and so she started applying for graduate programs at various like institutions across the country. So she went to the interview at Oklahoma State University, and she said she was there was only like 4 people with BS's there from undergraduate, and most of everybody else had masters. So she said the fact that she took that gap year and had that experience, she said her experience outweighed her degree in itself, because she said having that experience, like there's like 4 people going for the same position, and the professor only can take 1 person, and the other people have masters and other different letters behind their name, but they're all like, they didn't have experience like she did, so she got positioned in that lab over people that had experience. So experience can honestly take you a long way. So
And so when we talk to you about being mentored, not just by your peers, listening to their stories and their experiences and their pathway, that's essentially what we want to happen for you too, is to get you moving towards a competitive edge. And so Cincinnati was calling and asking for Casey there. Cincinnati was saying, we'll find the money to pay you to come to Cincinnati. So they like Oakwood University graduates, because Casey's laid a nice pathway there for others behind her there. So listen to her experience, talk to her one-on-one about how to get to where you want to get, because even though she may have done it a different way, there are things that you have in common, that you'll have in common with that. This is Rayvon. Introduce yourself, Rayvon.
Hey, hello everybody. My name is Rayvon, as you just said. I'm a 4-year, so I have another year to go though, so that's why I said I was a 4-year when Casey's graduating. And so I'm interested in either counseling or clinical psychology. I'm kind of narrowing down my focus, so I want to work with people, well, children and adolescents who have been through trauma, so like PTSD. I think that when we talk about PTSD, many people talk about people who go to war. However, they don't talk about urban people and urban communities who deal with violence or just deal with dysfunctional homes, which leads to many of the same symptoms of people who actually go to war. And so that's what I'm interested in. Is this a nice?
And you did research once over at Loma Linda?
I did do research at Loma Linda. I've done a good amount of research here as well. Here I've done research in chemistry lab. I've also done research with Dr. Buckner talking about the effectiveness of mentoring on STEM students. And at Loma Linda, it was just kind of like medical research, seeing how people respond to a medication called liposomal bupivacaine. But I've also learned that how depression and anxiety can impact recovery in those patients as well. And so I kind of looked for a psychological perspective, even though I was doing medical research.
And where are you going in January?
I'm going January? Okay, cool. So I'm going over to Spain from January to June. However, because my minor is Spanish, and I'm looking forward to being a part of a internship at their college there for psychology. I don't know what that is yet, but I do know when I arrive, when I arrive, there's an opportunity for me there as well. So, which will help on my resume.
So what we're looking at, again, is how to make you a competitive candidate there. And so the study abroad experience, if you get to do an internship that may involve research internationally, that makes you a competitive candidate. Like Casey was describing for the kid that went to Oklahoma State University, you know, as being picked over master's degree individuals. That's rare. That is rare there. But how did that person get qualified? What research experience? And any research experience is good research experience. That is the bottom line. It doesn't necessarily have to be psychology based, but it's research experience to where you can organize, that you can interpret, you can use, etc. And like any professor, they're looking for a person that can be their right-hand person, right? And so that's what Casey's getting ready to step into, is that right-hand person kind of position there for a gap year. And then if you have international research experience, that makes you different. That makes you different. So everything that qualifies you makes you different. That's what Dream Team is about, is that getting you there and everything. So these are two seniors, 4 years by whatever. You're naming each other by year, you know, this year, next 4 years.
Because the next one
Yeah.
is super senior.
And so, and there's some other people that are going to study abroad, and there's some other people that are going to do internships, and there are other people that are doing gap years. There's different ways to get to where you want to get, but you need to work with individuals, professors, other peer mentors, to figure out what it is that you want and what's the next step. Now, you guys want to talk about the fast track when you're a freshman? What happens, you know, as a Dream Team? How quick did you take statistics?
Okay. See, right now, I'm barely in this department anymore because I finished pretty much all my classes for the major. They only take like 3 classes now here. And so my freshman year was really good. I did just basic little, the 101 class for math. I don't know, like, is it math?
It's a 105 now, yeah.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
it is. It's different now.
Yeah, but I took that, and then once you take that, you can go straight into statistics. So I did statistics my spring semester of freshman year. So then once you do statistics, you can literally fly by in all the other classes. So once I did that, I started taking like upper division classes, so like principles of research, experimental.
That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much, once you get those, it's like.
So we fast track you to get you qualified sooner to get to that research experience, to be able to play a role as a researcher, okay, or assistant there. And oftentimes we've had students that look at opportunities and they say, well, they're only taking seniors. But when we tell them that we've fast tracked you and here's the coursework that you've had by the time you're even a junior.
Oh, I'm saying, that's what happened with me. When I got the opportunity my sophomore year, I was flown out to Sacramento to go to a neuroscience event at UC Davis.
For free.
For free. So they pay for my travel, they pay for my food, they pay for my housing, and pretty much it was pretty good. It was a pretty good experience. I met great people that I still stay in contact to this day. And even some of the professors, like, you know, like, say what I'm doing and whatnot. So it was pretty good. And there's also many visitation opportunities that most universities have. Like, I know a recent graduate just went to literally 3 in the fall semester.
Yeah, you can go to
So,
a lot. Just
it
look at
was-
their open houses.
It was pretty cool. But yeah, like being part of Dream Team kind of pushes you and makes you become, I guess, the best version of yourself. And so I saw that there was like a huge list of people who wanted to be in Dream Team. Can I just see like raise a hand who's interested? Okay. Great. Can I sort of just go around the room and check, like, do you have the list with you?
I don't know,
Okay. Can I see the text? Okay, cool. It's a nice pen. Can I see the hands one more time? So what I'm just gonna do, like, really quickly is I just want to know what you're interested in, because what my goal is and what our goal is is to, as Dream Team, is to figure out what you're interested in. And then we're going to put together a presentation of your area that you want to be in. And we're going to kind of let you know, okay, this is what you want to do. This is what a career would look like. This is what the opportunities are for this career.
The
And
steps you need to take to get there.
yeah, and how we're gonna help. And then during that meeting, you know, you can kind of tell us what you expect from us and how we can help you with your schedule as a freshman. So how many people want to work with trauma again? Like just figure out trauma and social economic factors?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I'll make this presentation.
Cool. All right, and so how are you gonna notify them when this presentation is? Group message for Dream Team. And you'll be on that group message, and you'll have all the information that's coming between all of us there as to when the presentation is, any announcements, etc. there. So that will just stay tuned for whenever somebody's requesting you to be a part of our group message. Okay?
Another thing, I am the psychology club president. We're having our first meeting next Friday, so yeah, you should all come. It's at 1, and we're trying to put it in this room. So yeah.
Next Friday.
Yes, the 31st.
What are y'all gonna do in the club?
Oh, so this year we were like focusing on like building your like career development, academic development, and networking skills. Like I said, networking is, I learned, is a really big thing, so I wanted to incorporate that. So just like things that you can do, like, since you guys are like, I don't want to say young, but like starting out your early months, so you don't have to really worry about the GRE yet, but it's always good to have that there. So like GRE, resume, and all that.
So now, how do you get to know your professors? How do you get to know me?
Just go to her office and sit there.
Just
Go to her office and just sit and talk to her. That's all we would do after class. Like groups of us just sit in her office, just talking about literally anything.
I just pulled up.
Literally just sit there until she's like, okay, you guys need to leave.
Yeah, don't be intimidated by me. I know that I'm a little bit intimidating, but just, you know, show up in the office. You're obviously going to see one of these guys in my office. Come with a purpose, you know, come with a purpose and everything. Also know that your other professors want to spend time with you as well. So go to their office, introduce yourself to Dr. Butner, introduce yourself to Dr. Sawyers, see if they can sit and talk to you about their career,
Yeah.
you know, what they're researching.
Because Dr. Sawyers is a clinical psychologist, and Dr. Buckner counseling. So, yeah, and Dr. Hotnick is he health science?
He's a PsyD with
Oh yeah, PsyD,
clinical.
clinical.
What's
yeah.
mine?
Yours is education,
School.
School.
Wow.
Same thing, same branch.
4 years she knows
Same
me.
branch.
School
Yeah,
psych.
school psych.
Yeah, where'd I graduate from?
Oklahoma State University.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right,
Oh,
all
she had
right.
a question.
Question?
I was just curious, like this scheduling with this, is it flexible or is it like a really big
Like
commitment?
within the classes here?
The dream
department
team?
Or
Dream team.
Like Dream Team.
Okay.
Like,
Oh.
Be flexible.
Super flexible.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All types of flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to ask more questions about your research about child psychology and neuroscience. That you
No doubt. No, like over the summer, I didn't go to summer research, but quite frankly, I got, let's see, I have a couple lectures that I watched dealing with that. There's a TED Talk that I listened to that I'll drop on y'all at the time.
And you ready for it?
I read 3 books.
3 books.
I read 2 books about child trauma, and then I read a book about the anatomy and neuroscience behind aggression and violence and criminality.
And your freshman year, you went to the International
National
Symposium.
Symposium. Oh yeah, okay. So for those who are interested in trauma and certain things like that, for instance, as a freshman, most of us will. I know I did. We volunteered at the National Symposium for Child Abuse, which is here in Huntsville, at that like Von Braun Center, that big whatever that is. Yeah, it's downtown. And what it is it's just different workshops that talk about abuse and trauma. So you might have, I met a detective who was doing the investigation on abuse. I met people who were trying to catch predators. I've met someone who literally all he did was take photos of the scene, and he had like a big book, and we were just going through it. To people who counsel and talk to the children after the fact. I met a couple individuals who gave me their book about working with young adolescents who have been sexually assaulted and sexually abused. And they have different workshops, they have different vendors, that's what they call little boxes and stuff. They have different stations where they have their little specialties at.
Exhibitors.
Yeah, I don't know the fancy words for it.
If I would be interested in volunteering for something like that, like where would I start?
It'll be posted around March.
Yeah, and we got you with like the statements. Like, we'll work with you on the statements and stuff like that. Trust me, because they, yeah, we had to write something, but you know, I have Vanessa and all that to help me out.
So it'll be posted in March. And the other thing for you to think about is that we have the National Children's Advocacy Center here, which is the advocacy center for child abuse. It's the model that all other advocacy centers internationally and nationally use. And we have students that do practicums there. And so it can be practicums. I mean, if your traumatology is your thing and child trauma is your thing, then that would be a great place for you to have a practicum experience at.
They want to do like the Stewards of Children training.
Maybe. So, and you can get certified.
Yeah, you can get certified in it. So
Yeah.
it's not long, it's like an hour-long certification. It's super fast.
Yeah. So that can be a certificate reflecting the competency that you have as a psych major. All right, that it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, very good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I forgot his name, but I feel like he had a question. You got it. Oh, you got it. Answer.
I was going to ask, when do you think we should start studying for the GREs?
It's like
I mean,
late sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Yeah. So, but it's not, your GRE score is part of it, but your letters are probably the most important part of it.
Another plug.
Sure, another plug.
Okay, so yeah, GR, like, after talking to like the professors at the University of Cincinnati and stuff like that, they said that when they're looking, at least there, when they were looking at like applicants, they more so looked at their experience, their CV, and letters of recommendation. They said they didn't factor in like their grades and the GRE score until like they had like a big application pool. They really need to like weed people out, but they mostly looked at everything else other than like the GRE score and like your GPA and stuff like that.
But it's all contingent on
Yeah.
how many applicants come in.
Exactly, because one year can have like, let's say like 500, and another year can have like 100.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, but we want to get you to where all the rest of it looks really good.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
show what you can.
Yep.
Because I'm going to get tested. But you'll see.
But yeah, all right. Thanks, bud. Yeah. All right, thank y'all.
Bye.
All right, so we've inundated you with information from different people in the Dream Team and their different experiences and things like that. So we just want you to know about that. And I'm happy to talk with you one-on-one about the Dream Team. Let's do this real quick. I was able to get into Socrative Teacher. Can you go to the website for Socrative Student? Socrative, I just want you to practice. At least go to the website for Socrative Student. Socrative Student. And I think I sent you an email or posted it on our homepage. Socrative, like Socrates, Socrative Student. And when you get into, it's up to you. You can make the choice whether or not you want to use the app or you want to use the website. Okay. So Socrative, as in Socrates. And when you get there, you're going to see this number this is your entry code to get into the class.
That's the room.
That's the code. Yeah. To
Is
get
it the
into
permanent code or just the temporary code?
you put in that code.
Is it permanent? Like if
No,
we
it's
do
not
it-
permanent. It changes every time we use the app. Okay, so Socrative Student, and once you get there, you put in this particular code, which lets you into the quiz, essentially, lets you into the quiz. So that's RT5M1ZIV. So RT5M1ZIV. So let me tell you how I use Socrative Students and everything. I use it as a kind of a method for you to quiz yourself and for me to see where you're at in terms of your understanding, okay? How many of you used it in high school or academy? All right, so Isaac, you're familiar. Okay, good. You guys are familiar. All right. So I want you to see what you know, and then I want to see how you perform.
So you allow it to at the end or after every quiz see if we got it right? After every question we got it right?
You should be able to see after every question.
Okay.
Yeah, that you got right. Okay? So, and it's another thing that allows a professor to determine exactly what needs to be lectured on. Okay? So the assumption is, again, that you've read before you came to class, and I should be able to quiz you using something, a technique like this or a tool like this to determine what needs to be maybe enhanced in terms of your understanding and lectured on a little bit more, etc. So if you've read, you're okay. If you've not read, your scores may reflect that a little bit more. So, but I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that are not directly in the textbook, but I want to see how you answer them. Yes, ma'am. It's not going in? It's RT5 M1ZIV. It's not going in? Can anybody get in? You're in? Okay. Just takes forever? Okay, so RT5 M1ZIV. RT5 M1ZIV. It's on the board over there. Yeah, okay, just go. Yep, we are getting ready to start. Okay, so here's your first question. Okay, here's your first question. All right, so the scientific study of behavioral mental processes is called, you should be able to get that. Okay, so 14 answer, we'll wait till we get a little closer to 18.
Kind of. What, like, I guess it's on the top.
All right, 16 folks have answered. Let's go ahead and see. So how'd we do? All right, good deal. The scientific study of behavior and mental processes, we kind of reviewed this pretty quick off the bat, is psychology. So 94% of you guys got that. Obviously, we don't have to review that definition. You have got it. All right, let's move on. Science has a very specific process that it follows. Just think about that. All right, so 18 folks have answered. How'd you do?
Yeah.
All right. What does the word objectivity mean? Look up that word if you don't know. What is objectivity? What does it mean to be objective?
Well, subjective means like it's like an individual's point of view, or
Subjective is an individual.
subjective.
Uh-huh.
So objective probably means like impartial or something like that.
Could be impartial. Somebody else add to that. Okay, so we'll start with the word impartial. Anybody got a different word? Factual.
Oh yeah, like not influenced by like personal.
Not influenced by that subjectivity.
Oh, open-minded.
Open-minded. All right, anyone else? Yes, sir. Based on evidence. Could be based on evidence. That's exactly right. Science is based upon a very distinct process, the scientific method. Always. You see that word science, I want you to automatically think scientific method. And if you hear that word scientific method, what do you think? There's steps to the scientific method, right? Observation, hypothesis, experimentation, right? Yeah. So you see that word science, think objectivity, think scientific method. So that's that. So we got some clarity on that question. That could come up again on a test. Come on, next. Okay. All right. So the independent variable is considered the treatment or the manipulated variable. Has anybody ever been exposed to that word, independent variable? Okay. That's what we do in our research. We use independent variables and dependent variables. So is the independent variable considered the treatment or the manipulated variable? True or false? True or false? By the time you're a senior, this is almost going to be like your middle name. The definition of independent variable.
Are your tests multiple choice?
Yeah, are they multiple? Yeah, they are.
Oh, yes. Okay.
we'll talk about what that means exactly. It's not always easy, that's right. Yeah, they can be hard. But you're in college, tests are supposed to be hard. Tests are supposed to be hard, but you'll be all right, you'll make it. All right, so, as we look at the answer here, we got anybody else that's gonna? False.
Yeah.
All right, so, the independent variable is considered the treatment or the manipulated variable. The answer to that is what? True. It's true. Yeah, so a little struggle there maybe. So let's explain this. I mean, it's pretty simple, just a definition. Independent variable is anything you're going to manipulate in an experiment. Anything that you're going to manipulate in an experiment. The dependent variable is the outcome variable. In other words, what's being impacted by the independent variable. Okay, so the dependent variable is impacted by the independent variable. It's dependent upon the independent variable. It's the outcome. So for example, if I say too much texting causes lack of sleep. Too much texting causes lack of sleep. What's the independent variable? The things that I can manipulate. Texting, the amount of texting. What's the dependent variable?
Lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep, exactly. Okay, so work on understanding those definitions. Independent, dependent variable. Independent variable is the manipulated variable. Dependent variable is the outcome variable. Okay, so that's what we need to work on there in terms of definitions there. All right, if an instrument is valid, it measures what it's supposed to measure. This is word validity, reliability. Okay, validity and reliability. You're going to have those words repeatedly in every class. Okay, so instrument, like a tool, an instrument, an assessment tool. If it's valid, it measures what it's supposed to measure. So in other words, if I get on the scale, the weight scale, and it says you need to eat more vegetables, is that a valid instrument?
What?
Now don't speculate.
If an instrument
Very,
is
very
valid.
cut and dried. I get on the scales, and the words say you need to eat more vegetables. Is that scale doing what it's supposed to do?
No.
No. Is it a valid instrument?
No.
No. So let's see how we did here.
Instruments are valid.
All right, true. If it's valid, it measures what it said it's supposed to measure.
Oh.
Yeah, it measures what it's supposed to measure. If my speedometer on my motorcycle says that I'm doing 75 and it doesn't move off of 75, it just stays at 75. Is it a valid measurement of my speed all the time?
Oh, no.
No, it's not. Okay.
Doesn't ask.
All right, let's move on. Next question here. If the steps of the scientific method includes all of the following, I just kind of gave you a hint
See.
a while ago on this.
See.
So the steps of the scientific method include all of the following. Let's see what you come up with here.
See.
As everybody answers this question.
Hypotheses.
Most of us have been exposed to this at some point.
I just had like a side question.
Review.
The homework, the assignment, did you change the due date? Did you end up changing it or no?
I don't think so.
Because we talked about in class that you said you were going to move it because.
Oh, not yet, no, because I'm waiting. I'm waiting because I don't know where everybody is in terms of what I can do is reset it.
Oh, so it's still due tonight then?
Is it the biblical foundations?
No, it's the intro.
The what?
Intro in chapter 1.
Okay. I'll ignore it or I'll either count it as a bonus. Yeah, I'll ignore and be counted as a bonus on chapter 1.
So we'll just be starting off chapter 2.
I was so
Okay.
worried because
Yeah,
I spent all
don't
night
panic
trying to
about
finish
that.
it. I was like,
Yeah. So, all right, so where are we at with this? The steps of the scientific method include all of the following. Let's see how you did. Does the scientific method include a literature review?
No.
No, that is not one of the steps of the scientific method. Now, literature reviews we do in research, but it's not a step in the scientific method. Okay, good. So you guys got that one as well. All right? The father of psychology is Wilhelm Wundt.
False.
Where's my notes?
Well, his name is spelled wrong.
Is it?
no,
What?
it's not.
So then it's true.
Do we know?
I swear to
Father
God.
of psychology.
Father of psychology.
I thought it was
Hold on.
E.
I think I differentiated father of psychology, father of American psychology.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
It's true if it's, you know.
It's true.
See?
But his name is with an E, his first name.
He's
Did I
German.
leave off a 11?
Let me see.
All right, we have any more answers coming in? All right. Now, will my test look like this?
No.
No.
No. No. Typically not. This is just a factual kind of question. And my questions will look more like, why would Wilhelm Wundt be considered the father of psychology? And then a selection of answers.
Okay.
Yeah, more like that. So let's see what you come up with. So that first and foremost, you have to know this factual piece of information. So you got it. Uh-huh.
So why would he be considered the father of psychology?
Why is he considered the father of psychology?
Because he's structuralism.
Because he's the one that actually went out and said, we need to have this as a formal science. Okay, as a formal science. He politicked to get it pushed into being recognized, yeah.
So was he the first person to make up the first school of thought? Like structuralism was
That's a
the
great question.
beginning,
He and Titchener together came up with the idea of structuralism.
which was like the very first school.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Uh-huh.
Could one of the reasons be that I was taught this like with the spelling because he did the first psychological lab in Germany.
He did. He had the very first psychology lab. That's not why he's considered the father of psychology. It's but many reasons. But the legitimate reason is that he went out and not only had the lab, but asked and said, we need to make this a formal science. Okay, we need to make this a formal science. So good. All right, how about this guy?
The school of thought.
William James is credited with developing
True.
a school of thought called functionalism.
Oh, wow.
Remember we talked about that, I think, on Monday.
Definitely talked about. Yes.
I just gave you an important hint, he's the father, he would be considered the father of American psychology.
Yes. So would this be, would we do use this website?
Yeah,
Would it be like how we're answering it now and we see the answers up here, or will you like set it going and every time we answer a new question?
Answer a
and
new
we have,
question.
and it's just
yeah,
by
and our-
ourselves?
yeah, so you're seeing your results, yeah.
Is our unit test, is it online or are we doing it in class?
A unit test, but you don't do any quizzes in class, you do quizzes online.
And all of our exams, they're all online?
No, your actual tests for all the chapters at one time is gonna be in class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so, who is this guy, William James?
True.
And everybody got that, good. Good, all right. That's more recent memory too.
Because it was not functional.
All right, so the structuralism failed in the United States because it was not functional or pragmatic in solving societal issues.
It's true.
This is a little bit harder. I mean, even though it's in a format of true and false, it really is much more conceptual kind of question. Because it asks you more along the lines of why. You know, it's telling you, it's referencing a why. So you guys doing okay now? You're passing?
Yeah.
70% or better? I'm gonna tell you something about 70% here in a minute. All right, let's see what you got. Good. Exactly. It did fail. It's because it was not functional or pragmatic for the U.S. kind of psychic approach to thinking about issues. Okay, next. What is a school of thought?
School of thought. All of the above. Should I be saying that? It's D.
Now, this is a conceptual question too, because you have to know what a perspective, a paradigm,
Perspective is a
point of view is, right?
It's D.
What do they all have in common or not have in common? So you're critically thinking as you figure this one out.
Point of view. What is a paradigm again?
It's
Paradigm?
The
Yeah.
paradigm is a technical example or pattern.
It's
or
like a
something.
model.
Real important, I want to add to that too. I want to add to that as well. Okay. Anybody else?
Let's see.
Okay, we're running out of time. I'm gonna jump on this one.
Yes.
It's actually all the above. So a point of view can be an idea, a point of view that many people share, okay? A paradigm is a model, kind of think of it that way, a model that there is a consensus about. So if I'm a psychoanalyst or into psychoanalysis, then there are certain certain points in that theory that I'm in agreement with. I'm in agreement with how to practice the techniques of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a consensus of people that are supporting that idea. That's essentially what a paradigm is. Isaac, anything? And then a perspective is just that, you're taking a particular perspective. So it's kind of a trick question there. Kind of a trick question, but it's all of the above there. How many do you feel like you could pass this test now? Good. All right, 70% or better. All right, let me tell you the secret here. If you're making a 70%, let's not forget that standard deviation, 10 to 12 points there. You could either be making a 60 or you could be making an 80, right? In other words, how much you could actually deviate from that score. Whenever you're studying, set a criteria for yourself. I have to make at least 70%. That means I probably need to study just a little bit more. If I make it 80%, add that standard deviation of how that score can vary on a test day, then I could make it as low as a 70, but as high as a 90. So when you're studying, try to set that criteria 75% to 80. But if you're scoring today 70% on this, you're doing good. You got a great start to understanding the chapter and being successful on it. Okay? All right, group, that's it. I'll see you on Friday.
Thank you. I have a question.